Hi, my name's Michael Paff. I'm with Network Data Security Experts, and we've been with Arsenal for 8 months. I actually got a cold call from, I forget what his name was, but we happen to be looking at different options other than hiring somebody internally again, and that call could not have come in at a better time. We scheduled the meeting that was with Aaron. Aaron went through everything, very clear, very straightforward and transparent, which is something that I'm always looking for, which did nothing but solidify the options and the opportunity. So we ended up moving forward pretty quickly thereafter. It was the conversation. Aaron was, again, very transparent about how everything operates with Arsenal. He set the expectation right up front, and knowing what those expectations were aligned with what we were kind of hoping for. There are so many different businesses that do this, but the way that you guys at Arsenal do it is a lot different than anyone else. And that's what made it so intriguing, because it aligned with what we were looking for. Most of the other ones we've spoken with were trying to charge by call or a block of calls. And they were trying to set an expectation that we should be looking for a certain percentage of closes based on the number of dials that they were making. When I spoke with Aaron, he was like, look, this is just going to be an attempt. That's what we're going to do. We're going to dial until we can get a result. And we don't know when, we don't know what, but we know we will get the result. But he set the expectation very clearly. And that honesty is what really solidified it for us. So I was excited, but I think I was more excited for Tony. I like for people to celebrate their own results. And when he got that first one, he knew he was starting fresh with us. He knew that this was an attempt, a trial and error, and you just have to pound at it. And when he nailed that first one, the excitement he had when he called and said, I've got this first appointment for you, was just very satisfying for me, but I think more so for Tony. So I was really excited for Tony about that. I think that with Tony, I feel like it is a true working relationship. He doesn't give me the impression or the feeling that he's just doing it as a third party. He really does work and act as a part of the team. So we chat frequently through messaging or on the phone as necessary. We can have random phone calls, just catch up on things, pass things back and forth to each other, and I like that working relationship. Yes. Helping each other out back and forth, I think it's really important. If you're going to function as a team, you've got to act like a team. And if I think there's something that could be improved, I want to relay that as an attempt to help increase the success. If there's something that I need to improve on, I don't think Tony has any concerns relaying that back to me either. So again, that partnership, that true working relationship as an extension of us is really important. Without making him possibly feel uncomfortable, daily. It's very important for me to track what's going on in order for me to handle projections and also to help coach a little bit as necessary. So as I'm hearing the reactions coming from the prospects he's talking to, it helps me understand how we might need to move forward. So it's important to listen to those and to pay attention to what's happening daily. So yeah. Aaron, I feel, is there anytime I need, along with Tommy. I haven't had to have a lot of interaction with them just because the machine is working and working well. So I don't really feel like there's a need to have a whole lot of interaction daily, but to know that they're there if I need it. If Tony needs it, if as the next step in the teamwork is needed, it's good to know that Arsenal's there backing it up. That's tough because I really feel like things are going really well. What could you do better? Maybe I don't really have an answer to that question. That's a tough one. I think the one thing that would be good is to have maybe a quarterly catch up with maybe with Tommy or Aaron and Tony, just so that we're all on the same page every now and then. I think that might be beneficial. Not saying it's necessary, but if you're looking for something that could be done, we have had the largest pipeline that we've had in a very long time. Whether or not they get to fruition is not necessarily a result I'm looking for now. Of course, we all want the closes to happen, but the closes don't happen if you don't have the pipeline. And our pipeline has never been better than it is right now. Word is getting out. It's getting out quickly. We have had some come back to the table that have told Tony and I no before in the past. They've come back to the table wanting to talk again. So that tells me there's been a really good impression set up front. And with Tony being the absolute frontline soldier, giving that immediate impression is very important, and that matters. And I think that sticks with people when they come back to us. No, I read these articles and hear these stories of how cold calling is dead. I don't believe that selling lives in social media only anymore. It requires all avenues, all aspects of attempts for reach outs. Human interaction is extremely important, and talking to someone on the phone, just starting a conversation, is the most beneficial way to build a rapport. So to say cold calling is dead is, I think, a little presumptuous in the selling industry. We've seen nothing but results from cold calling. Right now, a little over $16,000 per month is sitting in the pipeline at the moment. The majority of that is a result of Tony's interactions. We've had that conversation internally, and we will not hire internally again. Arsenal, as long as they are around, will be our go-to and our tool belt. I think Arsenal is very much so worth the cost. I am looking at starting another market somewhat soon, and I'm excited to add Arsenal to that market for me as well. The success that we got out of the first market was enough for me to justify adding the second market for Arsenal. And rather than having to go through the troubles and the expense and the trials and the tribulations of attempting to hire someone, train them, spend a significant amount of time traveling back and forth, Arsenal had someone already that was familiar with us, what our processes were, what our procedures are enough, and to have Arsenal just slide right into that second market for us made it seamless, painless, and so far successful. 3 months, I believe, is what it was before we decided to step into that next market. We wanted to make sure that there was going to be some success out of it. Doing it somewhat new with Arsenal, new for both sides. I think it was important to see a little bit of result come out of it before we attempted to go into the next one. So we gave it about 90 days, and at that 90-day mark, we went ahead and stepped into the market. I would like to hand it over to Tony, but I know Tony can be inundated. I'm sure he has many different opportunities he's working on. So if the availability presents itself, then that's going to be the request. We are. I have seen a change that some folks are still doing the virtual meetings, but we're starting to see more and more folks that are wanting to do that in-person meetings, be a little more human again, instead of just sitting behind the screen. You get a sense of who it is you're engaging with, and they get a sense of who you are. So it's extremely important to be face-to-face with these folks and not be trying to do everything virtually. It's real quick to forget everything that took place during a virtual meeting. When you're in person, you have the opportunity to build that rapport a lot more than you do over a Teams meeting. It's been kind of a case by case. We try to keep each other informed on what's going on. That way, as needed, if I need to call upon him to do follow-ups, he can. But I also want to make sure he can continue to track the progress of any opportunities that are on the table as well. So I think it's kind of a back and forth a little bit as needed. We are revenue share. I chose to go the revenue share because I think it's important that if someone's doing something in sales, they need to be rewarded for what they're doing. Fruits of the labor. So if Tony's pounding away, trying to bring prospects to the table and build that pipeline, when those closes happen, I think it's only fair that he gets to share in the success of that. I am hoping everything continues to go as it is, and we're going to be very successful going into next year. And if that can happen, then we'll see what the next year after that is going to bring. But as we continue to expand and have the need, then Arsenal is always going to be the resource we're going to go to for that. It was not. Arsenal has the skill set already in place. They have the tools, they have the people, they have the training, they have everything that we internally would have to do if we hired internally. We found that we were spending a lot of time retraining, hiring, and we weren't getting the success we were looking for. And it just didn't make any sense to continue to beat our heads against the wall. We spoke with Aaron. Aaron outlined exactly how everything works, the training patterns that Arsenal has internal, the methodology that Arsenal has and how they're doing it, and that fit perfectly into our program. And it saved us a lot of time and expense in the long run to bring in someone who's already skilled at doing this, that can slide right into the role. I would say it's absolutely the right choice. And although there may be some hesitation in utilizing a third party, Arsenal's going to make it very easy for you to do, and you will not regret the decision at the end of the day. Out of the 31 right now, I have, off the top of my head, 7 or 8 proposals that are out, and I know it's around $31,000 in monthly recurring revenue that is in the proposals, and I still have not met with all of those 31 yet. I've been really happy with the engagement that we've had with Arsenal, and as someone that deals with other businesses and other engagements, I believe the partnership is extremely important. Maintaining that connection as a partner, not as a vendor client, is extremely important. So what better way to get to know Arsenal even a little bit better than to come out and meet with everyone in person and spend a little bit of time walking through, seeing what everyone's doing, allowing them to see that I'm here so they know that their results are being watched as well. So it keeps the partnership real, keeps the partnership alive, and doesn't fade off in the background. I am very excited about where things are going and how Arsenal is going to help. I have a lot of plans, a lot of ideas, like many other operators do, but I really see Arsenal being a part of that going forward. My engagements with Tony, I think, are going to get better in a short amount of time. So final thoughts are, let's go. Let's do it.
That's where we went to play pool at lunch, so it was like this was a necessity.
How's it been working with us?
No, it's been great and fun. The back and forth, dialogue and the communication that you and I have it's very beneficial because one, I learn things. It's refreshing to hear the other side of, when you listen to the calls and give me feedback. It's helpful to use that and also be able to book, meetings with it. I think another thing that's been very helpful is that the notes and the if you've reached out to them before, if you've called them before, obviously it's like I can go back and see who has spoken to them and what the last outcome of the call was. And it's been 2 years since you've called them since, and the conversation might be different. And we've gotten a few meetings booked off that. So
visibility, the historical information, and being able to share that back and forth is definitely beneficial. Yeah. I agree with you on that, and I think it's made a lot of difference in helping you have the ammunition as you're approaching your reach out.
Right.
What are some of the things that maybe I could do better to help make you more successful? Other than learn how to play pool better.
Right, yeah, no, I realize that. No, I think, I like you said earlier, it's a It's a great question. I think things are just going really well. As the rep and
Come on.
as the guy on the phone, I think it's important to make sure that, like you said, the pipeline's never been bigger, and I mean, it's my job to make sure I'm making the most of that and the productive meetings of it. I just think that the more and more meetings that I set up, the high quality meetings, that these are just going to start falling. I think that as time goes on.
Well, you know as well as I do that the only way closes happen is to have that pipeline built up.
Right.
So building the foundation together, I think has been as good as our game has been so far. But it's a slow start, right?
Yeah, it's a slow start.
But as we've got these pipeline built month after month after month, when they start falling, the fruits of those rewards are going to be very high.
Right. Yeah. No, I think so too. And I mean, it's refreshing on my end too, that if I think a meeting or if I think a prospect is the meeting should go well, it's a refreshing to hear on your side that hey, it was scheduled for 30, we talked for an hour 15. I think that was actually one of the ones recently that happened. So it's refreshing to. Sometimes it's the slow play of it, but at the same time, of the things that we've talked about, that slow play is going to, work out, hopefully.
Well, an example I think of positive teamwork
Right. Yeah.
would be one that we've got scheduled right now.
Yeah.
You approach this particular company that we had engaged with in the past and were actually turned down. And now has back on the table, but now is 3 times what it was before, and they're in a position where they are in high need of what we're offering.
Right.
So your timing, your ability to go back and see the historical information, it changes your approach with them, which makes it even more important and higher opportunity for success right now.
So the first appointment was actually interesting because it doesn't happen often in what we do as sales guys and as cold callers. I was pointed in the direction of someone who handles the relationship. I remember being very giddy because it was my first day, and I remember the decision maker being very giddy as well. And we both talked very fast, and she said that she uses a company, but you know what? Why don't you send me a calendar invite for a couple weeks from now, where I didn't have to do anything? Which again, it never happens. You usually have to ask, I'd love to connect with my boss and show you what we do. Whereas the very first meeting on the first day was, hey, yeah, so I like to have options. Send me a calendar invite on this day, and I'm like, it can't be this easy. If it all works out this way, great. But I mean, yeah, it was. Over the rare occurrence to where she gave the meeting, whereas, I called and did the work for it, but yeah, that's kind of how it panned out. I remember I was excited. I mean, I turned around to the sales manager, and I was just like, if this all works out this way, I'll call all hours of the day if they say to send me calendar invites. That's perfectly fine.
And has it worked out that way?
I'd say of the 31, I'd say it's maybe less than a handful have said, hey, send me a calendar invite. I think that's been maybe 1 to 3 have been like that. The other one didn't quite, pan out that way, but it's been interesting because it lets me handle objections and overcome someone else saying, it may be a no on the first 2 tries, but they say yes on the third, if you ask that many times. So I remember, I was excited. Teams messenger called me and said, we're on the board. She did the work, but here's when it is, pretty much. So I was excited because what had been going well at the rate it was 3 months, it was 90 days. So when he had mentioned that, it was preliminary, I think, after the first month and we had a little success at our partner meeting, he threw it out there as an idea that, whenever that comes available. And a couple months went by, and then I think you had even mentioned that you saw that it was open, I believe. And then, you know, hey, I just want to let you know and talk to Aaron. I put a hold on that. You know, if you have a spot, I'm really hoping that you do. And so obviously it just kind of worked out that way. But I mean, yeah, I was excited because for things to go well and the rapport to go this well and to continue it into a second market obviously was exciting for me. So. I think it's the transparency and the feedback is obviously what, the transparency is actually what attracted them to Arsenal in the first place, and then being transparent with me and giving me feedback is what has also been the productive part of it, you know, as well. And just being able to build off of what he notices, sending me tools that I can read up on, and being able to tweak however I talk to certain prospects, and just how I'm able to make just a slight couple changes that makes a difference between, you know, 1 to 2 meetings to 3 to 4. So I definitely think we saw that a couple months back, and so yeah. I mean, I'm excited for the future, especially with you know, and mentioning earlier about potentially growing in the fact that the pipeline's never been bigger. As someone on the other side of the computer, it feels good on my end to hear that the calls and the work that I put into it has, you know, been a helpful asset to that. You know, I know that a lot of the work goes on behind the scenes of it, but the fact that that is out there and as a possibility, you know, definitely makes me feel good to know that it's going in the right direction. So yeah, because like you had mentioned, you get rewarded for putting in the work, and that it gives you a reason to not necessarily show up every day and do the job, but also at the same time, the fact that the deal is out there and it's an opportunity for his business to grow, and then you get a little bit of that, you know. So I mean, while we do have those two options, it's nice to know that, you know, your hard work is going to be paid off for, and at the same time, it's motivating to, you know, on Michael's side, was like, well, you know, that was great, let's go get another one. You know, basically is how the mindset for it. So
I think it's great that Arsenal hires the right people for the industry. It gives the right training to prepare them for that partnership. I'm excited to see where we're going to wind up as you learn more and more about the industry and more about what we do and how we do it.
yeah.
I think that's going to make you stronger at that outreach.
Yeah.
And the more strength that you have, the more successful we're both going to be.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
I'm excited for the future.